طيب شكرا دكتورة منى. احنا على مدار الساعة اللي فاتت تطرقنا لأطروحات مختلفة لقضية الأمن والأمان وحرية الحركة في الهيكل العمراني للمكان العام. طرحنا فكرة إعادة الإعمار اجتماعيا من خلال بعض الحلول العمرانية وفكرة الليفابيليتي واللافابيليتي. طرحنا فكرة الأمننة بمنطق أخلاقي كتندنسي موازية للمنطق النيو ليبرالي اللي بيتقدم معانا على مدار السنين اللي فاتت. اتكلمنا على المواجهات المختلفة أو التخيلات المتشابكة لوسط المدينة وحاليا التوازي اللي موجود ما بين فكرة النيو ليبرال والجنتريفايد من ناحية والعسكرة في نفس الوقت والمساحة اللي ما بين المخيلتين دول. واتكلمنا على نموذج الاحتلال السياسي للمكان العام وإلى أي مدى ده بيوصف حرية الحركة في المجال العام وإشكاليات الطرح ده. يعني الريدكشن بتاعة المساحة العامة للعمل السياسي أو مفهومنا لحرية الحركة في المجال العام للحراك السياسي. عندنا حوالي 20 دقيقة لطرح بعض الأسئلة، فبدعوكم لطرح أسئلتكم وتعريف نفسكم سريعا، وكمان إنه نحاول ما نزيدش على دقيقتين في مداخلاتكم. دكتورة جليلة.
قالت منى أباظة على خصخصة الفراغ العام قبل إغلاق الفراغ العام. احنا عندنا خصخصة. احنا ما كنا بنعمل البحث اللي عملته مع دكتورة سحر كنا بنتساءل في فراغ عام في مصر؟ لا، ما فيش فراغ عام. الجناين بفلوس، الشواطئ بفلوس، حتى في داخل الشواطئ الخاصة بتاعة الساحل بقى في خصخصة، يعني بقى يؤجروا حتت للناس، والناس اللي هم ريزيدنت ما عندهمش الحق انهم يسالوا. فيعني عمليه الخصخصه اللي بتوصل لمداها للفراغ العام اصبح ما عندناش فراغ عام حقيقه. يعني تم الاستحواذ عليه ايام الثوره. الموضوع ده كان لازم يتنظم. بعد كده دلوقتي اغلاق الفراغ العام، وانا قلت استعملت كلمه فيروياج، يعني بمزلاج تجاه الاحتجاجات، تجاه الاحتفالات. فده فعلا شيء مرعب. وان ترك الامور كده ان الناس ما بتحتجش على الخصخصه، فبالتالي ما بتحتجش على المزلجه. يعني الاثنين رايحين في نفس الاتجاه. هل ده مثلا الكيس في امريكا؟ في اللي عرضوا جيرالد كايدن ان 530 فراغ مخصصين. هل ده نسبته ايه للفراغ العام الغير مخصص المتاح؟ لان فكره الفراغ العام ان يكون متاح للجميع بدون مقابل. في نفس الوقت كمان في سؤال عايزه اساله الدكتوره سحر. في تخوفات من ناس كتير بيستعملوا الكورنيش على اساس ان هتلغوا المراسي بتاعت المراكب. السؤال ده طرحناه برضو، وكان الرد المراسي دي غير قانونيه، بالظبط زي بالنسبه لمنطقه البورصه القهاوي غير مرخصه. وبعدين احنا عارفين ان الكورنيش ده هو فعلا يعني البرومناد بتاعت الفقير، ده اللي فاضل، يعني الفراغ الوحيد اللي ممكن الناس تتفسح فيه من غير لما تدفع مقابل. يعني فعمليه الغاء المراسي، الغاء القهاوي بتصب في نفس المنهج. ان انا لما بيبقى عندي مشكله فبروح لغيها. يعني لو مثلا كان في باعة جائلين تحت سفح الهرم، انا ممكن يعني اهد الهرم. يعني هو ده المنطق اللي يعني عندي مشكله ركن في وسط البلد، كان في سيستم ماشي كويس قوي اللي هو بتاع الكارت وانا عاصرته، لا هلغي كل الركن وهنقل يعني هرحل المشكله من المحاور الرئيسيه للشوارع الجانبيه اللي اصبحت دلوقتي يعني حاجه مستحيله. يعني ف يعني بس.
Thank you. Ernesto Lopez from University of Chile. You didn't mention, but I think all of you were talking about the right to the city, the right to the space of the city. The right for different actors and for different purposes. The right for gay people or the Shia community to occupy and use public spaces. The right to protest and to give meaning to the political nature of space, the right to pedestrians to have a normal life and a safe life in the city and a more decent way of enjoying the public goods. So it's an open question to reflect on the right to the city, I mean, since you didn't mention. But also would like to ask Dr. Sahar, if, since you mentioned two words that made a lot of sense to me, but also made a lot of noise. You said uncivilized and irresponsible activities seen in the Corniche. And if you go further to explain what do you mean with those words, and a specific question in order to create some kind of... you said uncivilized uses, and also you said irresponsible uses. And just to provoke a debate here, what do you think about Dr. Abdelrahman is saying? Are those uncivilized and irresponsible uses from certain points of view?
أنا اسمي أحمد, a graduate of Cairo Institute of Liberal Arts and Sciences, aka CELIS. And I have two questions. One to Dr. Kaiden, which is, the talk about occupation was very interesting. And with the whole move towards securitization, is there a workaround to kind of still use occupation as a tool for expressing opinion, while the move towards securitization is this strong? Keeping in mind, and I'd love to quote Lucy, that the groups now are like ships in the night, so they need some kind of unity to have this kind of effective occupation. That's the first question. The second is to Dr. Sahar, and it's you ended your presentation with presenting a question, which is what makes a city great, and you proposed an answer, which is lovability, not livability. And I think with the case in Egypt and with the example of downtown, having the whole downtown على مياه جوفية or underground water, the livability is kind of a priority to make sure that people have the main sources and the main tools to live and then maybe love the place, or if we can do them both together. But I don't think that lovability is prior to livability, so if you please can elaborate on that.
هناخد سؤال رابع ونرد عليهم ونرجع نعمل رقم تانية. اتفضلي. You can go.
I'm from Sweden, Stockholm, and there it's forbidden to paint on the walls, like in many cities I know in Europe. So I wanted to ask Mona or maybe Abdelrahman if there is such a law here, or if you can paint on the walls. You know what the laws are in Egypt about that. Thank you.
دكتورة سحر تحبي تبتدي تردي على بعض الأسئلة؟
طب بسرعة جدا ردا على سؤال الدكتورة جليلة. طبعا موضوع المراسي مش في إطار أي مسؤولياتي أو تخصصاتي، يعني دي قرارات كلها إدارية ومش في إيد حد واحد، هي في إيد، وأنا عارفة إن في محافظة القاهرة كانوا بيعملوا اجتماعات كتيرة جدا علشان يشوفوا موضوع التراخيص وموضوع المراكب. أنا شخصياً بوعى كويس جداً إنه لأن أنا طول عمري كنت وأنا صغيرة ساكنة في جاردن سيتي، ودلوقتي مكتبي في جاردن سيتي، وكنا ممكن ننزل ونتمشى ونوصل لغاية سيميراميس اللي اتهد القديم، اللي هو ده كان أول وقوع للفاليوز في مصر لما بنهدر القيم يعني ما علينا، مش هندخل في المتاهة دي. ولكن الكورنيش كان فيه مراكب شراعية طول عمرها، وكنا بنقدر ننزل ناخد مركب شراعي ونتمشى في النيل. المراكب الجديدة اللي بالمزيكا العالية اللي بالأنوار العجيبة دي، أنا شخصياً شايفة إنها من حق المواطن إن هو يستعملها، بس أكيد لها أماكنها. وهو اللي بيحصل دلوقتي اللي على حد علمي إن هما بيوضبوا مراسي برضو في الوراق، وبيوضبوا مراسي في الساحل، وبيوضبوا مراسي في حلوان، وبيوضبوا مراسي في أماكن كتير، بحيث إنه يبقى فيه ديسنتراليزيشن. أول ما كانش فيه غير اللي كان عنده كوبري قصر النيل، فكان كل الناس بتيجي على كوبري قصر النيل، يجوا على الحتة دي ويحصل فاللي احنا بنحاول نعمله دلوقتي اللي انا شايفاه انه لازم المراكب الشراعيه تفضل عشان حتى السياح وعشان حتى المواطن العادي اللي عايز يركب مركب شراعي. المراكب التانية فيها مشاكل ان كلها مش مرخصه، وواحده غرقت متهيألي من كام اسبوع، وانا كنت بتكلم على موضوع ترخيص المراكب ده قبل ما المركب دي تغرق باسبوع، لكن هو مش من تخصصاتي ان انا اقول هنا في، لكن انا قلت اللي لازم يكون موجود اتوبيس نهري، اللي لازم يكون موجود مراكب شراعيه اللي تعودنا نشوفها في المركب على طول. اما عن الاشياء الاخرى بقى فدي متهيألي لازم يبقى ليها اماكن اوكي، يمكن قدام شويه عند كوبري مايو يمكن، لكن مش لازم تكون مثلا قدام عند الحته الزحمه عند منزل النفق. ففي كده حاجات في الحركه متهيألي يعني محتاجه دراسه اكتر، وعلى انت ادرى اللي عارفين ان احنا ما بنلحقش ندرس، احنا بننفذ قبل ما بنعمل الشغل. I will answer my question in English because maybe I mean I don't know, maybe it was the translation or something, but I'm sure they translate well, because I did not say actually uncivilized, but I say in some in all civilized countries you will not see this scene, which was the guy standing on top of the at the edge of the stones, and you know, like he can fall apart. So my word was these scenes of unsafety, we cannot find them in a civilized country. So it was not about the people who are not civilized. I mean, the people are not, they don't have enough awareness. I believe our main problem is awareness. And we don't work for this, either for the awareness of the normal people, in schools, in universities, I mean the youth, the kids. They don't get this, you know, think of how to care for others, or how to care for themselves even, or how to care for places, or how to care for an old mosque. I mean, you were mentioning like writing on the walls. I mean, it's very easy. Anyone can write, you know, or can just put an advertisement or display an announcement on an old mosque. And so all these small things, I believe, yes, this is not well, it relates to culture, to civilization, to things that I don't see in many parts in Europe. But I think this is also related to, and about the right to the city and about my colleague, no, it is two totally different things. Because I believe today I myself, okay, because I am, you know, I go to informal areas, I know, I love the city, I go, I walk, so I have the right. But I mean, many other people who are not in the field of urban planning or urban design or in I mean, who do not just have the courage to go down, they don't have the right to the city. It's now all converted. Now, if you have today like more than 60% of the new constructions informal, and you have these areas which have no accessibility to sometimes sanitation or to decent work or to employment or to good education, they don't have good education. This is the main problem. I mean, our main problem in Egypt is education. And if you have good education, you would have changed the world, because we have resources, we have, I believe, rights. I believe, I mean, we have many good things, but you don't have, you know, this touch of understanding the value of things. You don't, and even before your understanding value of family ties, we don't even understand these values now. So we lost many values. How and when? Don't tell me. I don't know. I cannot tell you. It is because of lack of education. So I was not talking about his wordings. Actually, no. This is. I think, I believe it's another issue. But I cannot. I mean, I am not in the stand of blaming who are. Blaming those people who are, you know, preventing Shia or Shiite from doing their events, because I know I have Shiite friends who are living here and Iraqis and so on, and I never heard of any complaint, so maybe this is in a specific hadr. Also, so I think it's religious, you know, it's very critical, and I don't think I did not mean this. I meant how to deal with public space, how to deal with the objects of public space, how to behave well in a public space, and You can be a very well-educated guy and you cannot behave well, and you can just throw papers, and you can use write on the walls. And I mean, when we are working on this project of Corniche, and I wanted to put some flowers, and if you walk here, you'll find, you know, these flower boxes, colorful, you know, to cheer the kids. And so I thought, oh, no, we cannot put flowers. We have to, because flowers will all be taken by the small children. And so, okay, we can just put, you know, some posting, please do not touch the flowers, protect your city. We always choose the easy way of not doing things just to keep them in a good thing. My last thing is about livability and, well, I mean, you are right, of course, we have many problems, but our problems are so in deep that if you love your city, you will bear the problems, you know, this is what I mean. This is a very important thing. But I know that, of course, مشكلة المياه الجوفية, I mean, it's a national problem. It is not only about downtown, actually. I have only a comment regarding the walls of Mona, and I just discovered very recently that the walls was not an Egyptian invention, actually, or not of the police or Ministry of Interior invention. I discovered it is an American invention. So, you know, along with Halloween, imitating, you know, we didn't have Halloween, but I mean, it is, so this is a problem of borrowing.
Stephen Graham argues that the Americans have borrowed from Iraq. They used Iraq and Gaza for Katrina as a very good example. I mean, the Iraqi invasion and Gaza have been the learning process for Americans to apply it in the States, right?
Okay.
As the only American on the panel, let me assure you, we borrow from everywhere. And so should everybody. That's the whole idea of comparative borrowing.
That's right. I mean, it's a global phenomenon.
Of course.
We're speaking about securitization and militarization.
Yes. So, do you want me to just very...
No, since
you do
Dr.
whatever.
Mona took the floor, maybe you can answer the questions you got as well.
All right. I mean, once again, you know, see, that's
Use the microphone.
the microphone, yeah, all right. So it's once again, I mean, definitely, I mean, what we're experiencing, that is why you should really have this walk. And I'll organize that walk on the 5th, no cameras and clearly no maps and no cameras. Omar can tell you because there was a previous walk and people got, I think, AUC. With the Ministry of Interior. So definitely what we're experiencing here is not new. I mean, and definitely Brazil, the favelas, you know, the whole clearing up, I mean, that's why I mentioned yesterday repertoires. And repertoires are very important and very interesting to understand why we're talking of models and once again, about Dubai, Nasser Rabat's work on the imaginary of Dubai and how this has been replicated in the Middle East as if we have no other alternatives. Graffiti has been penalized, but I think the moment has been penalized in the sense of recently the army has banned it was always, of course, an ongoing war between graffiti artists and the would-be powers and the cleaning up. I mean, the last 4 years, as we all know, it was a constant game of cleaning up walls and repainting and graffiti as a form of barometer of telling a narrative. But I think this is now finished. The momentum is finished. We only see remnants of something. But definitely, it depends how one sees cleaning up or not cleaning up. I mean, it's okay. Yeah.
So you asked, is there a workaround with regard to political protest in public space? The reason I used Occupy Wall Street and a privately owned public space is it's so peculiar, and I wanted to mix things up intellectually that you could actually, at least for a moment, have more rights to do political protest in a private space. It varies, of course, country by country. It depends on laws, constitutions, cultures, traditions, etc. And so it's impossible to generalize. I can say that in many countries and in the United States, public protest is a constitutional right. And government must by the Constitution allow people to protest in streets and sidewalks and parks and elsewhere. Now, that doesn't mean you can do anything. You know, there's a funny thing about rights. When we talk about rights, I like to say that your right to extend your fist stops at my nose. All right? You know, my nose has a right to not be punched by your fist. So rights are all totally relative. And of course, I can't go in the middle of a big street and stop traffic for 50 days in a row without risking the possibility that at a certain point I will be arrested. Now, being arrested in certain countries is different than being arrested in other countries, and I know which ones I'd choose to be arrested in terms of civil disobedience, and that's a big problem. So I'm not really finally worldwide worried about this. In fact, I found Occupy Wall Street to be a wonderful kind of a movement in that regard. But at a certain point, everybody's patience turns to something else. What's the new soap opera? I mean, we only finally have so much attention span. One thing I did want to say about a right to the city, I think it's a wonderful aspirational goal. And, you know, even though he was confusing in how he wrote it, Henri Lefebvre put it right on the table, of course. I like to talk about a right to a public space, though, in terms of very tangible activities. I mean, we can talk about how much green space should everybody have in Cairo, you know, as an aspirational goal. And there are those sorts of metrics. They're a little bit crude and artificial. But they get on the table this notion that we're all entitled, and particularly, by the way, the poor, the people who don't have their private garden, don't have their big house, they need public space more than anybody else in the whole world, and they're entitled to it as well. And we can argue about street vendors and sidewalks and what happens here and there. And there's a wonderful book, by the way, on street vendors in Hanoi by a woman named Annette Kim. But, you know, I think the contests will continue, and we'll have arguments and then hopefully good outcomes. One other plug I'd like to just say. I have a website that I created dealing with all 520 privately owned public spaces in New York City. If you write down the website address, you can go to it, and I think you'll be intrigued by it. It's apops.mas.org. So it's APOPS, that's Advocates for Privately Owned Public Space, .mas.org. And I'm going to look and see if Egyptian traffic has gone up in Google Analytics. But I mean, it's really interesting because you'll see all 530 of these spaces documented. And public knowledge becomes key. What Cluster and Omar have done with regard to passageways, all of this becomes crucial to the use of the city. Actually, a right to the city is meaningless if you don't know what the city is physically. So I urge you to think that way.
شكرا جزيلا. يعني في دقيقتين طبعا متفق تماما مع كلام دكتور جلال القاضي حوالين انه ازاي مساله الخصخصه والاغلاق يعني they lead to each other, they feed into each other. انه لو في مجال عام مخصخص ما حدش هيزعل قوي لو اتقفل باختصار يعني. فانا متفق تماما مع دوت. وحتى كمان نقدر نوثقها تاريخيا انه ازاي بيحصل يعني ايه دوائر او موجات من الخصخصه ثم الاغلاق للخصخصه او غيره. Just to respond to your question about the notion of the right to the city, with all due respect to David Harvey, but I always had a certain degree of discomfort with that concept, and I always tend to see it as a kind of oxymoron, because it seems to me like David Harvey wanted to go beyond the juridical limitations of the movements by resorting to the same juridical language that is right to the city. I mean, there is no rights without limitations, by the way. But then what we need is to disclose spaces to be able to exercise rights in the first place. So we are talking about the precondition or the infrastructure that would allow people to exercise and claim rights. And this cannot be actually framed in the same language of rights itself. What I would love to use, or my proposed alternative, is that notion of the civic life. By the way, before the 18th century, it was hard to find in any writing in the Western political theory any mention of that word civility. Everybody was talking about the civic. Everybody was talking about the republic. Everybody was talking about the civic life, about the citizens. I mean, think about, for example, the English Republicans. They were, I mean, it's also another oxymoron to talk about English Republicans. But think about the English Republicans. I mean, they never thought of some preconditions before you access the public space, before to be a member of the republic, before being a member in a free state. I mean, the free state, that was the notion that they used, not even the republic. And I believe that this is something that we need to reactivate, something that we need actually to enforce and infuse it in our day-to-day public debate in Egypt, that what we are struggling for is that we're struggling for to restore that domain of civic life. It's not something that can be expressed in juridical form because it actually does not have any kind of juridical limitations. This is something that cannot be limited. Once we disclose that space, then the rights language can be operational in order to see who actually can claim blocking the streets here or the rights of the street vendors or whoever. But before all of that, we need to disclose that space. And that's why if there's something that we really need to kill in our public discourse in Egypt, is that all that talk about civility, civilization, civilizing, uncivilized, civilized people, what we all know is that to disclose the space as plural as it is and as politically contested as it is, and then everything else will be a matter of contestation and negotiation between equal people and each other.
Okay. If I may add something, I still insist that David Harvey had a point about the appropriation of surplus value and the question of real estate and private and owning. I mean, this is 1 million units. Yeah, sure. But the right to the city, exactly the point that 1 million units are empty in Cairo, or 8 million. There is a United Nations. Okay. Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So we're speaking about, an incredible inequality, an unbelievable inequality. We're speaking also about surreal price estates, and surreal prices between downtown. We're speaking about gentrifying a center of town where prices have not increased in comparison to the gated communities and to, once again, the satellite cities. So there's something there that is really transpiring. I mean, if we're talking about social inequalities now after the revolution, this is something to be addressed. I mean, definitely, in terms of once again, access to housing. This is my understanding before even public spaces. I mean, this is number one. So if this is not addressed, we haven't spoken to the main problem. That's it.
I'll take 2 more questions, and then we can wrap up. We are minutes away from lunch. Mia, you had a question?
This is a question for Professor Kayden. Thank you very much for your presentation. I'm in a position of perhaps not fully appreciating the kind of weight of one of the main points you were making, and I would appreciate it if you can give it, if you can elaborate a little bit more for me. My first reaction to this point that Zuccotti Park was privately owned, which is a really interesting fact. Strikes me, and to sort of make, and you've looked into this, you have the website, the APOP's website, which highlights these other privately owned public spaces as a category which is kind of quite paradoxical. But I'm not sure how to take that further. It strikes me as maybe uniquely, or maybe in my basic knowledge, like fairly uniquely American. No, not as a phenomenon, but in the sense that, the idea that private enterprise for the good of the general public is kind of something
neoliberal.
Okay, this is the private enterprise for the good of the general public is a particularly kind of historically American phenomenon, one which has produced great good for public life and so on. But then how do you take that further? The parks which are highly restricted, the public parks that are highly restricted have been highly restricted because collectively somehow society has conformed to a great deal of extremely bourgeois ideals of how public space should be used, and that is what's being enforced. I disagree with those bourgeois ideals, but is the answer to have that decision simply made by a single enlightened private individual who can then say, yes, go ahead and use this park for all kinds of other things? And, you know, the example of Zuccotti Park and the fact that the owner actually went ahead and said, no, please don't do this in my park, leaves a very kind of basic open question. So I was wondering if you can like make my view a bit more complex in that regard. Thank you.
And one more question. اتفضلي.
Thank you. My name is Safa Ashoub. I work for the German Development Corporation, GIZ, and I'm a political scientist and an urbanist. I have two questions to Amr. You spoke about neoliberalism. Okay, I'll switch to Arabic دلوقتي. نعيد النظر في مفهوم الليبرالية الجديدة، وأنا بالنسبة لي يعني الليبرالية الجديدة هي بتدور حوالين مشروع اقتصادي معين to capture the surplus value، وليه بقى تبعاته الاقتصادية والاجتماعية والثقافية وغيره. فأنا مش فاهمة نعيد النظر في أنهي جزئية بالظبط، ومرتبط بيه بقى السؤال اللي جاي اللي هو فكرة المورال بانيك. هل ده موجود في دول أخرى؟ هل في تكرار للنموذج ده أو للابروتش ده of moral panic، إنه الجهات المعنيه او الجهات اللي في السلطه الرولينج اليت عايزين يضمنوا مساله المورال ستاندرد؟ ده موجود في دول اخرى غير في مصر. وفي برضه جزئيه انا مش متاكده فاهماها قوي ولا لا، الفرق ما بين السيفل لايف والسيفيك لايف، انا شويه مش فاهمه الحته دي قوي. بس شكرا.
So thank you for your question. I think the answer is actually part of a much larger question, which is either one is supportive of the mechanism of using private capital to achieve the public interest, or one is not supportive of that. You know, I could cut to the chase and say I'm supportive of it, but only if the public interest is truly vindicated, and then we can have a discussion about this. And I've had discussions with people where I've given them actual hypothetical examples. I did this actually before the Greater London Council in England, and I closed a speech that I was giving on international public-private partnerships by saying, if you could spend, you know, 1,000 pounds or 100,000 pounds, doesn't matter what it is, and in one case, it's a purely public project, and you get 100 units of public interest achieved, all right? Or you can spend the same amount of money, but some of it goes to the private sector, and you get 200 units of public interest. In other words, using the private sector, you get 200 units of public interest, double the amount. Which would you choose? Thank you very, very much. And I sat down, and afterwards people came up to me and said, I choose the first one, you know, because I don't believe in this model. So, you know, it's in part ultimately almost a philosophical question, but I think with crafted laws, and I'm a lawyer and urban planner, and I work very, very hard to make sure that these partnerships actually deliver to the public. I think you can provide something that's good, and I'm not against neoliberalism, even though the word gets bandied about a lot, as a philosophy as such. I'm just very aware of the dangers that are involved and the tendencies, obviously, of the private sector, which wants to make money. Okay, that's the whole idea. You make money, and we get public space. Yes, they're doing it just. I want to make money. That's what you said yesterday, and why not? That's what you're in the business. So we can talk about an entirely different system of how we organize our societies. But if we're in a somewhat free market or mixed market situation, then let's be really smart on public-private partnerships so the public interest is vindicated, without, of course, crushing the goose that lays the golden Egyptian pounds or other eggs.
طيب شكرا جزيلا على السؤال. بسرعه جدا، مساله ضروره اعاده النظر في مفهوم الليبراليه الجديده. طبعا مساله الاجراءات الاقتصاديه الليبراليه الجديده، انا رايي انه يعني this is the tip of the iceberg. الليبراليه الجديده في الحقيقه يعني مفهوم بالغ التركيب ليه جذور فلسفيه. انا شخصيا ادعوكي مثلا انك تقري فريدريك هايك مثلا. انه فريدريك هايك مش منطلق من مساله انه الدولة والله فشلت فلازم نتنقل للسوق، هو منطلق من مفهوم مركب جدا لحدود العقل، ايه اللي يقدر العقل ينجزه، لحدود منطق الراشناليزيشن اوف بينج، مسألة ايه هي قدرة السيطرة اصلا على الناس، لمفهوم السوشيال انجينيرنج، الهندسة الاجتماعية. وهنا بيقول انه عمليا في حدود لازم التنوير الاوروبي يدرك ان هو ما يقدرش يتخطاها. وبالتالي فكره الليبراليه الجديده في الحقيقه هي طالعه في مواجهه او من داخل وفي مواجهه فكره التنوير، فكره الحلم بالراشناليزيشن اوف ذا وورلد، بعقلنه الحياه العامه، باخضاع الحياه العامه لقوانين. حتى كمان هايك لما بيتكلم عن حكم القانون هو بيتكلم ان القانون يكتشف ولا يصنع. يكتشف ولا يصنع، ان انت المفروض تسيب المجتمع يكتشف ايه اللي بينفع ويلتزم بيه. من هنا بقى جه اعجابه بالسوق، ان هو بالنسبه له ان السوق هو self sufficient regime of practices، نظام للممارسات مكتفي بذاته، ولو اتساب يشتغل هيقدر ينتج المصلحه العامه. الفكره العميقه ديت، الفكره العميقه دي ما ينفعش ان احنا نختزلها في مجرد انه اجراءات اقتصاديه ابدا، لان ديت فكره بتوجه يعني ده منطق حاكم لصناعه القرار في المجال الخاص بالمناسبه زي المجال العام، فيما يتعلق بتنظيم العلاقات بين الاسره وبين الدوله، بين الدوله وبين اللوكال كوميونيتيز، بين المجتمعات المحليه، فيما يتعلق بالاربن بلاننج وما الى ذلك. الفراغات بقى اللي بتسيبها المفهوم ده، الامبيجويتيز بتاعته، اوجه الغموض بتاعته، هي اللي بينشا فيها المورال بانيك، وبالتالي بتنشا فكره الهلع الاخلاقي لمحاوله. عشان كده طول الوقت بتلاقي فيه مساله السايكليكال ريليشن ما بين النيو ليبراليزيشن وما بين المورال بانيك، لان كل ما بيحصل زياده في الليبراليه الجديده كل ما بتتنشئ مشاكل ما حدش مهيأ ان هو يتعامل معاها، فعلى طول بيرجع لخط الدفاع الاولاني الخاص بالهلع الاخلاقي. فبالتالي تبقى مشكله الفقر مش مشكله هيكليه في السياسات، تبقى مشكله الفقر مشكله ثقافيه. يبقى مش مشكله البؤس اللي موجود في شوارع المدينه مشكله هيكليه ناتجه عن سياسات معينه، لا، التوربيني ده لازم يتقبض عليه، فلان ده لازم يتحبس، علان ده لازم يتمسك، لازم نستعيد النظام وغيره. بينما انك لو انت تجاوزت شويه النيو ليبرال منتاليتي حضرتك تكتشف ان كافه المشاكل الاخلاقيه بين قوسين هي مشاكل في الحقيقه ستراكشرال، هيكليه، ليها علاقه بالتحولات السياسيه والاقتصاديه اللي مصر مرت بيها بدايه من نهايه السبعينات وانت طالع، او من نص الثمانينيات وانت مستمر يعني. وبالتالي المشاكل هنا احنا محتاجين يعني كلمه كده برضو ابتذلت للاسف اللي بتاعت بارادايم شيفت، لان اي حد عايز يعمل اي حاجه جديده بيقول عليها بارادايم شيفت. احنا بجد محتاجين بارادايم شيفت، ان ازاي نتعامل مع مشكلات ستراكشرال، مش كمشكلات اخلاقيه، مش كمشكلات ثقافيه، مش كمشكله سيفيلايزيشن. هنا بقى اجي بقى لفكرتك ان الازمه والله مش انه الناس محتاجين ان هم يبقوا سيفيلايزد، او ان الناس محتاجين سيفيليتي، او ان الناس محتاجين ان هم awareness، يعني مساله التوعيه اللي طول الوقت، بقدر ما في الحقيقه ان الازمه هي مختلفه، ان الناس محتاجين سبيس حر، ان السبيس الحر دول اللي هم يقدروا فيه يكتشفوا حلول لمشكلاتهم، هو ده عمليا اللي الناس محتاجاه. والسبيس ده هو اللي انا بسميه سيفيك. مساله التوعيه وغيره هي دي اللي ليها علاقه بفكره السيفل والسيفيلايزيشن، وهذا تحديدا الفرق بين الاثنين. الناس مش محتاجه سيفل سوسايتي، الناس محتاجه سيفيك سبيس. اتمنى اكون واضح يعني.
شكرا يا عمرو، وشكرا لاسئلتكم. اعتقد انه في ميعاد الغدا دلوقتي، عمر ممكن يقول لنا عليه.
شكرا جزيلا للجلسه الثريه جدا ولاسئلتكم.